Hi, and welcome to A Sense of Wellness podcast, inspiring and empowering a healthier you. I'm your host, Susan Greeley, and I'll be diving deeper into the 4 pillars of wellness: sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Today, I'm happy to be talking about food, nutrition, cooking, and how to stay both full of good food and also truly satisfied. I'm speaking with nutritionist, cookbook author, and publisher Mona Dolgov today, who is living her lifelong mission of creating kitchen comfort and sharing simple, healthy lifestyle habits through her delicious recipes. Mona is a culinary food strategist, a nutritionist, and author of her new cookbook, Satisfy, which is what we'll be talking about. She is also the co-author of The Perfect Portion Cookbook, which focuses on comfort foods made healthier. Not only that, Mona formed and is president of her own boutique cookbook publishing company called You Live Right. It focuses on publishing content to promote healthier living. Mona loves taking a new approach to classic recipes to make them trendy, simple, and better for you. She holds weekly interactive online group classes called Mona's Satisfy Kitchen, where she shares recipes, meal planning tips, and simple nutrition tips to get delicious meals on the table in no time. Mona also loves teaching people that the kitchen is a fun, safe, loving, and comfortable place to be, and her goal is to empower others to build that kitchen confidence. So with that, Mona, thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here and also to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you and I love chatting. And that said, your book, Satisfy, that is such a great title, Mona. And from one cookbook author to another, I can say it really is a labor of love, right? So tell us about your motivation to write this book and a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, my motivation, that's my new lingo. Thank you for describing my past experiences and all that. For the past 25 or 30 years, I actually was in the corporate world, always working within the food industry. And I always kind of worked behind the curtain. I always think of myself as like the Wizard of Oz, kind of behind the curtain, developing new products or creating new recipes or working on a new marketing program to launch a new product. And during my tenure within corporate life, I probably developed about 20 or 30 cookbooks for appliances, food companies, health and wellness companies. And I decided that, you know what, now it's time for me to come from behind the curtain, take all the knowledge that I've had and really scream it out and really fulfill my passion and my mission is to make this country and the world healthier in my own way. Having had all of this experience in figuring out and being creative with wows and understanding, as you know, my background's in nutrition, and I'm really honing in on all the research that's been done in the past 20 or 30 years in nutrition. Let's bring it all together and kind of develop a company, You Live Right, and a publishing company that will, I call it a boutique publishing company because it totally focuses on healthier eating. And it could be in the form of cookbooks. It could be in the form of recipe content that goes online or in video. But just to try to make it, as you mentioned before, making it really simple and really easier to instill kitchen confidence and to instill empowerment in the kitchen. And I know you love the title of my book, Satisfy, and that really coins who I am and what the book is also all about. It's not only the satiation and the fullness of all the recipes that are in the book that keep you, quote unquote, satisfied, but satisfaction as far as feeling empowered in the kitchen. Satisfaction as far as having confidence and being able to tell your neighbor and friend, you've got to make that recipe, like how cool is that, and feeling good about it. Satisfy as far as being positive and enjoyable around the kitchen table. And that's really what I'm all about. It's all about that nuancy stuff, not just like the prescriptive nutrition, but also what are the practical tips and what are the practical ways to really create healthier habits for life.
Fantastic. Yes, you know, you and I both share the same mission and passions, and that's why we're here and making it doable for people, for listeners. And don't you find so often people just simply lack ideas, fresh ideas, motivation, and right? It's so true. And most importantly, that confidence. So we're going to talk more about that. And back to your background, my background. You studied nutrition in college too, and that's why we have a lot that we love to talk about. And so let's share that with listeners. Your expertise does shine through with each recipes. Honestly, you have a lot of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans. I find it so helpful that people can fill up without too many calories, without even talking calories. And that whole recipe development process, though, Mona, there's a lot that goes into it. So tell us more about your cooking and eating philosophy and how you go about writing recipes.
It's almost whenever we create a cookbook and whenever my team, we all create recipes, it's creating, I call it a nutritional blueprint. And it's saying, okay, let's start from scratch and kind of like a big puzzle and let's kind of pull it all together. And the first is making sure that there are accessible ingredients. It's ingredients that you can easily find in a grocery store, in a farmer's market, or wherever. So that's really important, because if the ingredients are accessible and unintimidated, you're going to do it right. Also, from a recipe standpoint, I have my must-haves. I always want to create balanced meals, balanced in whole grain carbs, healthy fats, lean proteins, and fiber. Fiber is a really, really important thing as well, as you know. The third, especially in this cookbook, Satisfy, and all my cookbooks too, is I really want to be more plant forward in this cookbook. So what does that mean? That doesn't necessarily mean totally plant-based, but plant forward meaning that 70% of your plate has vegetables or plant-based ingredients in there. And it's easy to do if you know your little tricks and coming up with those tricks to do that. The fifth thing is gluten-free. With all the research that's going on and me having a gluten sensitivity as well, I wanted to make sure that all of the recipes in this book are gluten-free. The other thing is ease of cooking. One pot, trying to make one pot meals, one sheet pan meal, one air fryer meal, minimal cleanup, 30 minutes or less to make, and making it really simple and easy. So it's almost a mixology of creating and putting different ingredients together. And the last part, which is my favorite part, where things kind of can get more calorie dense versus nutrient dense, is the sauces and what I call the splashes and dashes and the magic that goes into each recipe. And I have a lot of tricks as far as, healthy fats and really good vinegars and spices and herbs and citrus juices that you can meld together to create unbelievably delicious recipes.
That's fantastic. I wrote those all down. I honestly did. And the funny thing is, it almost sounds too good to be true. And I will simply say it's not too good to be true. This is so good. And I think this is what will speak to a lot of people, is that number one, we eat based on taste, correct? Like we
That's
all
right.
know to taste good and look good. But all these other aspects come in. Do I have these ingredients on hand? Can I find them? Can I easily put it together after work when I'm tired? And make it healthy and follow gluten-free. Like, I love you have a lot going on in your mind when you're developing these recipes, and the fact that literally every recipe touches on all of those factors is just fabulous. I have to point out. So I'm very happy. Yeah, that we're sharing that with people. So again, it's not too good to be true. It's just simply good, and all these nutrient dense recipes. So one area, you have a lot of chapters in the book, and I want to talk about some of the specifics and just overall people understand what they're going to get when they pick up your book and cook a lot of these meals. But one thing I want to hone in here for a minute is that what I find is many people end up grazing, Mona. And so they consume more calories often in their snacks than their actual meals. So you have a chapter in there about snacking, and I want to hear some of your snack hacks and what do people do when they want to snack and don't want the calories to go crazy.
It's funny. It's like, writing this book in the middle of COVID over a year ago, there was a lot of snacking going on and a lot of grazing going on and a lot of mindless eating going on and emotional eating going on. And I think I wanted to make snacking like a fun chapter because everybody, so I came up with the expressions just with Satisfy. I made up an expression called snack-ertaining. And I really like that I did that because it puts snacks in a positive light. Snack-ertaining kind of takes away the stigma of, well, I can have friends over and eat it and I can make my mini meal or my snack kind of special. The other thing that with snacking is that I want to make sure that it's not a meal. And it really is a snack. And I don't really like to mention calories a lot, but I think it's important when you're talking about snacking that, in my judgment, a snack should be somewhere between 150 and 250 calories. And not that you should go and calorie count, but if you eat the right kind of foods together, and as I mentioned, these nutrient-dense veggies and things like that, you can easily get there and be totally full. So what I like to do with snacking and my strategy with snacking, I do with clients and I do at seminars and things like that. It's kind of like my Chinese restaurant approach where you have your column A, your column B, and your column C. So your column A, you're going to choose your nutrient-dense fruits or vegetables that you want to have for a snack, because that's always important to include, because you're going to get your fiber, great flavor. Then you're going to try to get like a lean protein, if you can, to kind of put in there. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be a little. It can be in the form of a yogurt dip. It could be in the form of hummus. It could be a few nuts. And then also incorporating a little bit of a healthy fat, like 1 to 2 teaspoons of a healthy fat. So someone might say, oh, how do I do that? How do I kind of put that together? Well, in my cookbook, I've easily done that. So I'll give you an example. So I have in my cookbook, everybody loves like cauliflower bites, like almost like wings, but they're made out of cauliflower. And it's basically roasting some cauliflower, using one of Mona's dashes. I have special dashes or spice blends in my book. It's incorporating that a little bit in there, but then eating it with a little bit, like quarter of a cup, half a cup of a yogurt dip. So you have your protein from your yogurt dip, your healthy fat, and you're having the nutrient-dense vegetables, and you're having this nice, warm, satisfying snack, which is great. Another example that I really love to make is I make raw vegetable rolls, like almost like spring rolls out of like rice paper, or you can use nori paper. You just cut up some veggies, you wrap it around. And then I love to make I have a peanut sauce that's like to die for, which I could talk about a little bit later on. But that brings up the healthy fat, a little bit of protein, and you get the fiber, the nutrient density. It's fun. It's really, really fun. Look, if you're in a rush and you don't have time to make this stuff, then you can go to the basic rules that I have and have the snack I had today, which was a clementine and some pistachios. And that was a great snack that I had on the run. And there's lots of things that you can do to keep those little snacks portable. So when you're on the go, you can do that as well. But I think the whole thing is with the snacking is just making sure, A, it's not total, it doesn't become a meal, but second of all, that it has that combination of balance and always including some fiber through vegetables and fruit. And I love using vegetables like snap peas or carrots or vegetables that have a lot of fiber, that have a lot of filling, that are nutrient dense, and that keep you full. Having that lean protein and or healthy fat. Everybody loves a little dip or a little nosh to kind of have along with that. And then you're good to go.
Wow, those are such fabulous tips. No, it's really true that it can be fun. Easily it can be fun. And sometimes when you just need a pick-me-up, keep it simple. I love that portable fruit and nut snack. And you and I share the same philosophy in the sense that it's a snack and not a meal. So really do keep it in that 150 to 200 calorie range. And you're there when you follow these lists, these tips that you just spelled out for us. So that's fantastic. And on a side note, you and I both know that most Americans simply don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. So thank you for just sharing so many delicious, healthy snack ideas, because that's what a snack needs to be, as an opportunity to get in more of the good stuff, I call it.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Susan. I mean, eating vegetables and fruits, you're never going to, people are always concerned about, weight management and things like that. You're never going to eat like go excessive on a fruit or a vegetable because it has the good fiber and all that great stuff in it. So use that as your healthy habit. Keep that, and the whole thing is also accessing your refrigerator and having things that you can open up your refrigerator and have, cut up some carrots or use the little carrots to have in your fridge, or slice up some cucumbers. And I always try to prep in advance a little bit so that when I'm picking a choice, it's there. And I think that's one of the big things. I know, as you know, I went to Cornell undergrad, and Professor Wansink did that research that showed that if you have that bowl of fruit or that bowl of vegetables on your counter, you're going to eat more of them. And I think that's really what it's all about, and having more of that is, A, it's healthier for you, it's better for you, and it's going to keep you more satisfied and full.
It's so true. And I'm laughing because it seems like such a simple message. When it comes to real life, though, I had a client just today who happens to be a grandfather, goes to the pantry first, opens the pantry door and sees Oreos and can't resist them. So I had the same recommendation as what you just spelled out, which is open the fridge and have, I call it mini vegetables, the baby bell peppers, the baby carrots, the little cucumbers, and just that whole switch in your own mindset, and then that prep of having it on hand. So I love that. And that's real life for people, where whatever is in front of us that we see grabs our attention. And so instead of having the packaged processed foods, do have those fresh prepped fruits and vegetables. I love that. It's so true.
As far as making it special, then, I don't want fruits and vegetables, to make one of the little sauces or dips that I have in my cookbook, to make it a little, it's not going to add that many more calories or be totally calorie dense. Actually, it's probably going to add some protein and healthy fat to it. But then it makes it, I get that indulgent flavor of that peanut sauce. Or, I get that ranch dip. FYI, it's made out of Greek yogurt. So that's what I think that makes it sexier in a way, it makes it more fun.
Exactly. Who doesn't want fun and sexy? I completely agree.
Right.
And that gets people to eat it. So you actually brought up what I wanted to say as well with this, your final dash and splash, you call it in your book, and that is so key. So who wants to eat plain old veggies all the time? I don't think anybody, including myself. So this is such a key area, and I love it in your book, and it's very visual, by the way. Mona's book is beautiful, and we'll talk about that because you did it all. In general, though, back to flavor and not being deprived. So you have the nutritional balancing that you're talking about, and then how do you kick it up a notch? Tell us really more about this final dash and splash that we both just mentioned.
Oh, sure. So in my book, I think the dashes and splashes, it can be intimidating as too. Like, how many times do you go into a supermarket down the spice aisle and there's probably 200 different spices and you're like, oh my God, which one do I buy? How do I use it? How much should I have? What goes with what? It's kind of, like walking in a department store and seeing all this clothing. I'm like, I don't know, what should I get? So one of the things that I've done in my cookbook is I've come up with 4 spice blends. And what I really like about them is that you just need to get like maybe 6 or 8 or 10 spices in your pantry, and then you mix these spice blends together, and then you can use it for a variety of different dishes. So I have a barbecue spice blend, I have a Mediterranean spice blend, I have a Southwestern spice blend, and a roasting spice blend. And what's great about them is they're filled with phytonutrients. I mean, these spices are metabolic boosters, superfoods, and flavor. So why not use them as much as you can even on a simple, you can make a hard-boiled egg exciting by using one of these spice blends, right? So that's the dashes. And then the splashes, which is similar. Citrus juice, I think, is like the best. So fresh lemons, fresh oranges, fresh limes, and not only the juices, but also the zest. So you get yourself a little zester. And what's great about the zest, you get the soluble fiber, and you also get probably 3 times as much vitamin C by using the zest as the juice. And I remember I gave a cooking class just on zest alone. My whole kitchen just smelled so aromatically, these great flavors. Oh my God, Susan, it was like, and then you combine that with a little herb. Like my favorite one is orange zest with fresh rosemary. It's like, the best. Or like a lemon zest with an oregano and like a salad. It's so good. And use these splashes and dashes on simple meals, on simple things like as I mentioned, a hard-boiled egg, even on fresh vegetables. And even in a salad, you can put these fresh herbs and spices in there. As we move into, so we got your splashes, you got your dashes, then we can move into what I call the salad dressings, of course. And that's combining the citrus juices or really good vinegars, healthy oils. It could be avocado oil or olive oil. I tend to use plant-based oils, of course. And then using those herbs and spices to kind of incorporate that in. Another thing I like to really use in salad dressings, a little bit of Dijon mustard. That adds a lot of texture to the dressing. And in itself, it also creates the thickness or the viscosity. One of the recent recipes, it's not in my cookbook, but I just played around with it last week, is I actually had a little bit of canned pumpkin left over. And so I actually incorporated a little bit of that in a salad dressing. And I love I love the thickness of the dressing. It made it very filling and full. Greek yogurt is also a great ingredient. Instead of using your sour cream or any type of heavier creams, to use Greek yogurt because you're getting the protein as well. And then we're moving from dressings into sauces. So I have, in the back of my book, I have an index of all the sauces from my books, even though they may be from certain recipes. So if you wanted to just kind of play around with different sauces, you can just look in the index and kind of do that. I would say my 3 favorite sauces in my book is one is it's Thai inspired. It's a peanut sauce. It's so delicious. It's made with a natural peanut butter. I tend to use another great ingredient is to use coconut aminos as a great hack swap for soy sauce because it has much less sodium and it tastes just as good. And so I'm a big advocate of coconut aminos, a little bit of sesame oil it has in it, some fresh ginger and some rice vinegar. And it just mix that together and it's just, you can use it as a dip. You can use it as a salad dressing and don't be afraid of water. So if you wanted to make something a little bit more diluted as a salad dressing and you find that this dip is too thick, just add a little water to it and it tastes just as delicious for that. My other favorite sauce is a tahini sauce. I love tahini. It's a nice Middle Eastern sesame paste. And by combining, also a lot of these tahini dressings can be also calorie dense. But what I do is I add some plant-based milk to it to thin it out, which doesn't have a lot of calories and it creates a lot of flavor. And combining a little bit of fresh garlic and some lemon zest and some cumin is an amazing, amazing sauce that I also can create in a salad dressing. I tend to use it in my recipe, in my cookbook for falafel. And then the other one is a dip sauce, which is just basically a Dijon sauce. It's a very simple sauce. It's Dijon mustard, Greek yogurt, and just a teaspoon of honey. And that's perfect for like if you're having a lean protein like chicken or fish, vegetables. And it's just good. It's just a great extra sauce to have. But having these flavors will satisfy that, I call it the chip craving, because you're using real ingredients. You're getting that combination of a little sweet, savory, a little salty, but not with the calorie dense stuff, but also that craving of really good fresh herbs and ingredients to put in.
Amen. As you're talking through all of these, I get so excited. We both do. I could geek out. I get excited about new flavors to try and my own dressings and dips, but it's how we elevate food in every aspect from flavor, nutrition, making it more satisfying and appealing. And I just, thank you, Mona. That was really, I know a lot in there, but I think the main thing though, because I get this question all the time, Susan, which salad dressing do you like? I'm like, well, I only make them all myself. So even though, yes, maybe tahini is higher fat, you gave tips for thinning it out, but also having a thick and creamy, indulgent, call it decadent dressing that you make yourself and isn't loaded with bad fats and too much sodium and preservatives. So this is fabulous, showing people how quick and easy it is to make all these very satisfying, delicious dips and sauces and dressings. So I absolutely love that. Yeah. And then, of course, I have to comment on the phytonutrients. I know that you and I like to talk a lot about it. I just want to throw that in there because herbs and spices really add so much, not just flavor, but well, obviously the flavor, but healthy characteristics.
That's right.
Yeah, right. It's true. And
yes,
when people don't get enough of the fruits and veggies, we say, but we overlook the fact that herbs and spices add
so much.
Yes, that are good for your immune system now, coming out of the pandemic, heading into flu season, all of that. Like really focus on getting herbs, fresh herbs, and then a variety of spices. So I just had to interject that as well. I want to
build on that a little bit. So like as an example, like in a salad, you could add, like I have another one of my dressings, but you got me thinking. I have a salad dressing that I include some turmeric and black pepper. And it's an orange dressing, it's a ginger carrot dressing, but I put a little bit of that turmeric and that black pepper purposefully. Why not give you a little anti-inflammatory boost, right? Or just combining vegetables together, like combining avocados and tomatoes. You got the healthy fat with the lycopene from the tomatoes to create more absorption into your body. I don't write every specific, and it's funny because every one of my recipes is scientific because I think about that all the time. I don't write every little detail in my cookbook, but one of the things that I always do, I think about the puzzle when I write my cookbooks. I'm always thinking about this stuff. It's like, okay, How can I get maximum absorption? Okay. What herbs and spices would go well with it so I can get a metabolic boost or a phytonutrient boost or an anti-inflammatory boost? And you're right. It's just having those herbs. It's like the secret weapons for really making things healthier. The other thing I just wanted to say, as far as people who are nervous about making their own salad dressing, this is going to sound really simple, but having a house for that salad dressing is really important. So buy a couple of mason jars, buy a little like salad dressing cruettes at, you can get them at any local store. If you have those in your cabinet, then you will do it. If you don't have it in your cabinet, you're not going to do it. And she's going to say, oh my God, what do I do with the leftover dressing? I don't want to throw it out. But always, I like to do is like always have, just like you're prepping your healthy ingredients in your fridge, have a house for those dressings and sauces, because I think that will motivate you to make them.
Motivate you.
Motivate you too.
Yeah. All these factors come into play on being comfortable in the kitchen, not seeing it as an overwhelming, exhausting task, but really have it yourself set up. And even when you're talking about zesting, we're telling people to go out and get a few gadgets, like when you're listening to this podcast, I really hope you're inspired to add a couple really essential gadgets. For me, it's immersion blender and my microplane, things like that. And then these jars to house your salad dressing. Who knew you needed the the home for your dressing? And thank you for saying that. Because most people don't see that when you pick up the book and look at it, but you and I do put all those nutrition puzzle pieces together when we're developing a recipe and use very intentional, specific ingredients. We don't have to spell out all the science. I just want listeners to know that's all included in that entire thought process, because I think for the two of us, it's our passion and it's a challenge. It's what keeps us truly, truly motivated and inspired ourselves to work on getting more healthy recipes out there. And I asked this to you separately. I'm going to ask you again. Do you ever get tapped out, Mona? I mean, you really develop when you say you were involved in 30 cookbooks before even doing your own too. And I know you're working on yet another book. How do you keep your own inspiration going?
Oh, I love it. I like dream recipes like all the time. But no, I don't. I always study trends. I love international trends. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. I have so many different cookbooks, spice books, things like that. I talk to people. I talk to different chefs, and I just kind of figure out wows. That's really where my sweet spot is. It's like, okay, no one's ever really done this before. It's like, I was working on a recipe the other day for an air fryer, and I said, I want to create a healthy fruit recipe in an air fryer. Well, I'm going to slit a banana in half and throw some cinnamon in there and see what happens. And it's like, so it's always like, I view like my kitchen is kind of like my haven. It's like almost like an artist who has all the colors in front of them and they kind of like mix colors to do that. That's kind of how I work and how my brain works. Like, what if I included this and that? What if I made an omelet with fruit instead of vegetables? What if I, put these spices together? And that's really how my brain works. And I never tap out. I love it. And I love going to restaurants, as we all do, and trying new foods and new dishes, because that motivates me and also keeps my creative juices going too. So it's fun. I just love it. It's just really, really fun. Never get sick of it. Never get tired of it.
Yeah. I hear you.
Bring it on.
It is that palette. That's what the kitchen is. I do paint, but I see it in exactly the same way. So it's fun. And that fun is really the key aspect. It doesn't wear out. It just builds on itself. Yeah. No. And I'm also getting the ideas from travel and eating out. That's a really important aspect to keeping the food, interesting, new. I love that newness and the wow factor. So real ingredients, real food, real simple, real delicious. You touch on all of it, and I sincerely mean that. That said, do you have your own favorite recipe in Satisfy in this book in particular? Is there one?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, not one favorite. Not one favorite. I have about
a dessert and a favorite entree and maybe one other.
Okay. All right. So how I've kind of structured my book is I have the snack retaining and the parts desserts and complete meals. But within the complete meal, which is about 2/3 of my book, I separate it out by the type of appliance or sheet pan we use. I think that's really helpful because it gets you in the mindset of what you're going to do. So as far as some of my favorite recipes is, one of them, I'm actually making it tonight, so I'll talk about it. I'm making a cod fra diavolo. And what I really love about this recipe, it's flexible. So if you don't like fish, don't worry. You can use chicken instead, or any other lean protein, or or you can use tofu, or you can use a plant, so don't worry about it. I love fish, and being from New England, I tend to get fresh fish. So, and it's really simple and easy to do. What I also love about it is it only takes 12 minutes to make. And that's another thing that's really important to me, having those recipe hacks. Like, what can you do that tastes really good that only takes 15 minutes? So basically what I do is I season the cod and I saute it in a little bit of olive oil, set it aside. And then that's where the magic begins, is when I'm adding all the paintbrushes go out, and I'm including lots of different vegetables, mushrooms, onions, garlic, tomatoes, zucchini, and all the Mediterranean, using my Mediterranean spice blend, which has like oregano and rosemary, and kind of just sauteing that and bringing all those flavors and vegetables together, and then adding that little zip of crushed red pepper, gives it like its little oomph. And then you just make the sauce, and then I just add the cod in at the end, and it's great. But let's say you love this sauce. Like, one of my friends told me I should be jarring this sauce. But if you love this sauce, you can use it for whole grain pasta or like a bean pasta, or use it for a chicken dish as well. So I just loved incorporating that. And I love the fact that it takes minimal time, because the tomatoes you're using are canned crushed tomatoes. And I tend to buy the organic ones. That's easy to make. Mushrooms, you can get them pre-sliced at the store, so you don't have to spend the time doing that as far as putting in that ingredient. And you use those hacks. It's okay. The fact that you're having more vegetables and all that, even like garlic and ginger, they now come in frozen little cubes that you can get, so that if you don't feel like cutting up or chopping that, you can just pop a cube or make your own cubes in from your freezer and just kind of put that in too. So that's my entree recipe. I do have a soup. I have another soup that I really like, and that's a zucchini ramen soup. And what I really love about the soup, it's basically a big bowl of vegetables, and you're making a broth. And the broth really is made out of 4 or 5 ingredients. It's buying some vegetable stock, and be sure to look in the store for like an organic vegetable stock, and making sure that it doesn't have a lot of sodium. That's a big thing that I always look for. I tend to get the lower sodium because that's really important. And then I just put the stock in a pot and add in some ginger, add in some shiitake mushrooms, a little bit of the coconut aminos, which I talked to you before. That's a little hack for soy sauce, less sodium, and a little white pepper. And I just kind of put it in a pot for 10 minutes, and all the flavors infused, boom, you've got a soup. And then you just pour the soup over this big melange of vegetables. Again, matchstick carrots, which you can get bagged in the store. So you're just basically putting it in your bowl. Spiralized zucchini, you can actually buy it now fresh in your store as well. Spiralize it yourself. Some mushrooms, edamame, which I tend to get frozen, and I just defrost it and put it in there. And so you get your protein and a little bit of scallions. You pour the soup in this big bowl of vegetables, and it makes an unbelievable soup. Then if you want to add a protein to it, you can add some hard-boiled egg, or you can add some shrimp or whatever. And it's like this fancy soup, and you've made it literally, Susan, in 10 minutes. It's like crazy, right?
Yeah.
I get so excited about this. Can you tell?
Yeah, that I can literally smell this as you're describing it. I smell the food. And it's funny because you picked out 2 recipes that you have gorgeous photos for. And so they jumped out at me in going through your book too. That's really funny.
Yeah.
They look
all
delicious.
Right. Now let's do dessert. Dessert is like my favorite thing. So everybody likes chocolate, and everybody likes cookies, right? So I came out with this, again, a cookie that you can make in 15 minutes. It's an avocado chocolate chip cookie. So instead of butter, you're using an entire avocado as the fat. How great is that? So it's a combination of an avocado, some unsweetened cocoa, an egg, a little bit of sugar, and some cinnamon. And it's flourless. So it's not only gluten-free, it's dairy-free. And I put in I use dark chocolate chips in it. It makes a batter in the food processor, mix it up, put it on a sheet pan, 15, 20 minutes. You get these ooey gooey, amazing cookies that are so good for you. And it's a great dessert. And why not? Have fun,
Incredible. Okay. That I'm going to try for my kids and not tell them. That'll be a good test.
But tell them it's okay.
I'm not one of those parents that sneaks in foods. Right. So with this one, I might, just to see what their reaction is. That sounds amazing though, and quick and
so
easy.
good.
Delish, and hits on the, believe it or not, like a delicious, gooey, high fiber cookie. Most people I'm like, oh, that can't be good. It is. It sounds absolutely delicious. Love.
I think you need to go back. I think you need to go back to your client and tell them to make these cookies instead of those Oreos. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely will. Yeah, there's no replacement for the homemade thing. And wow, so that sounds incredible. And I also wanted to point out, I'm looking through the sheet pan, so simple, easy. The whole point is there's just so much variety that you can do. And I know you and I talked about this a little bit. I just want to encourage listeners to say, take the recipe and then make it your own. Maybe you don't want mushrooms, but make it with everything else that's in there. Or, like that's a really key component as well, is that you have these go-to easy, delicious base recipes, but then personalize it for your own tastes. And I think that that's what people think. I have to do everything exactly according to the recipe. Like I hear that a lot, and it's just obviously not the case. So I wanted to mention that.
I wanted to bring one thing up that I did on cheap pan meals, because cheap pan meals can be a little tricky because from a scientific, I'm bringing my little my food science background into this, is that you want to make sure everything gets ready at exactly the same time, right? Yeah. So what I did for you in my book, I actually have a sheet pan chart that tells you like what protein goes with what vegetables and will all cook at the same time. So it's a great thing to do. And one little trick that you can use. So let's say you want to have sweet potatoes or potato with your swordfish or something like that. What you do is a couple things. One is you can cut those potatoes into small pieces, and that will give the potato more surface area so they'll cook faster. Or you simply cut up your potatoes, put them in the oven first for just an extra 10 minutes, take it out, and then put in the fish with its topping, with my favorite spices and dices and all that, and then your other vegetables that will take the 20 minutes, and then everything will be ready at the same time. Because I think that's another thing that everybody gets kind of nervous about. How do I make sure that everything gets ready on time from a time management standpoint? What I tried to do in my book is to ensure that you can have a complete meal. You don't have to worry about this side dish, that bowl, that microwave, and everything kind of gets ready at once.
Mona, thank you so much for those simple sheet pan tips. It's really so easy to prepare one of those well-balanced meals that just simply you remove the thought involved in having it all ready at the same time. So thank you for pointing that out as well. That said, yeah, I'm very curious too. What is the best compliment you've gotten on this book?
There's like three I can think of. One is that someone says, I never put your book on my bookshelf. I use it every week. And that it's not collecting dust. And it's like, that they're using it for planning during the week. I would say that's one. A second one is a good friend of mine who uses the book and gave the book to her daughter. And she told me that her daughter has become, who's in her 20s and now on her own, really an active home chef now, and really doesn't feel intimidated about making meals at home and finds it really simple and easy. And she takes pictures. She even sends them to me and sends them to her mom. And that for me is empowerment, and having the whole family together and doing it together. How great is that? Just doing that is awesome. And I guess the last one is I was at a dinner party a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine had given her friend this cookbook who happened to be at the party. And he equated my book with the famous Yotam Ottolenghi, which, as you know, he's one of my idol cookbook authors. And he basically said, I use Ottolenghi's recipes all the time, and I'm inspired by a lot of his recipes too. And he goes, I have to say, Mona, I make your recipes and they're so much faster and they're just as delicious. So I'm like, oh, that's so great. So that always makes me feel awesome. So I just want to thank you, Yotam, if you're listening. And I just feel like, wow, that's really great. And so I feel like I'm doing what needs to get done and making it simple and making it easy and making people feel empowered and smiling and just having everybody around the table and being part of the process.
And now Mona, that I do focus on 4 pillars of wellness: sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. You have such a busy life. How do you ensure that you're taking care of yourself? Do you have any daily routines or tips that you'd like to share with listeners? Like, what do you do on a daily basis to support your own self-care?
Okay, so I practice what I preach from a nutrition standpoint. So I do always make sure, to me, it's, I just love to eat healthfully. So I always practice what I preach and follow what I do. I would say from an exercise standpoint, I wake up every morning and I exercise right after I get up. It's almost like taking medicine. I just wake up with my exercise clothes on and either get on the Peloton or I'll go for a long walk and get some fresh air. I think getting fresh air is really important too. I always make sure I do that for at least 20 minutes, if not more. And I exercise for, I would say, between about an hour every day. And I always make sure I do that first thing in the morning. So there's no excuse. I kind of just get it done. The sleep, I probably could use a little bit more sleep. If you talk to my husband, I probably could, because my ideas come at night and that's kind of my creative process. But I do make sure that I do sleep at least 7 hours a night and get that rest that I need. And then from a stress standpoint, I'm grateful. And I'd say a prayer or I do an affirmation every morning. Just, I feel grateful for just being here and being able to share my knowledge with everybody, having a great family, and just being cognizant of what you have, I think, and appreciating that every single day. And I always make sure I do that. I think I've been doing that since I'm a little girl. My mom always instilled that in me when I was a kid. And it's something that I just share with my kids, and I just do it every day. So I always do that.
Ironically, that leads me to my final question for you. And it's really interesting because keeping a gratitude journal is one of my best, foremost recommendations for managing stress. It really is true. So my last question for you, Mona, that I do ask of all guests is, what is one thing you're grateful for today, even at this moment?
Well, I'm grateful for you. And I would say I'm just grateful that my book has finally, there's all this hard work that I put into over the past 2 years, that I can finally share it selflessly with the world and be a part of just a mission to try to make this country and the world a little bit healthier in the easiest way that I can. And just to see smiles on people's faces and, feeling and making sure people get empowered and feel good about what they're doing. And so I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity in my life that I can do this. And it's not over. There's going to be more books coming out and more classes coming out and things like that too. But I feel like my mission in life has been accomplished, and I can't say that my work is work because I really love what I do.
It's not work and it's never done. So keep going, Mona. Thank you.
I will.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. On that note, Mona, where and how can listeners find you?
Oh, okay. That's easy. So, yes, of course I do. So if you want to purchase my book, which I'm sure you will, you can go on, it's available now, and pre-order will be available November 9th on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and hopefully will be in your local bookstores and libraries soon. You can also please follow me at www.monadolgov, that's MONADOLGOV.com, where I have my books, I have my classes, I give all these interesting classes. I'm having a Healthify the Holidays class that's coming out. I do healthy living reboots, and every month I do classes on my own, or I have special guests and we do classes together, and it's so much fun. And I'm just keeping what I love to do alive, and, hoping that this book really becomes interactive in some way. And so you'll hear about me and all my good books. If you're on social media, please follow me at Mona Dolgov, both on Facebook and on Instagram as well.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Mona. It was great having you. Keep cooking and sharing your delicious and inspiring work. Thank you for taking the time to join me and listen to this episode. Listeners can find more information and also subscribe to the Sense of Wellness podcast at www.ccphp.net/SENS/podcast. That's www.ccphp.net/SENS/podcast. This show is brought to you by Castle Connolly Private Health Partners. We are a concierge medicine organization that partners with exceptional physicians to deliver an unrivaled healthcare experience while also empowering our members to achieve their optimal well-being. Be sure to listen in next time to the Sense of Wellness podcast, and remember, simple daily habits matter most.